Actually, it's 7:31. I think that's as good as that is going to get for the lovely... I just don't like how much of my body always shows on the iPhone camera on here. Okay. Am I on? Yeah. Ah, fuck. I forgot to change the tags. Can I change it when I'm on here? I can. Wow, the more you know. How do you spell restaurant? Does anyone know how to spell restaurant? Restaurant. There we go. Perf. I was Googling how to renew my sub. Welcome to the frickin' party, people. Restaurant. I figured it out. Thank you. Queen, you're early. I like how I'm always so late that when I'm on time, everyone's like, oh my God, you're early. Bree Page 97, thank you for resubscribing. Also meant to tell y'all not to be a simp for capitalism, but y'all fucking slayed. I did an ad last week where it was a sponsor, and y'all, so many of y'all clicked the link and they are super happy, and so thank you for that. And I might do more of them, I might not, and who knows what's gonna fucking happen in the future. The Wild MO, thank you for resubscribing. I love a resubscribe. A resubscribe is so meaningful because I feel like a subscribe is often driven by impulse. But a resubscribe, that's, you know, that one just like is warmer and fuzzier. You know what I mean? Today we're talking about the history of tipping. I'm really excited about this lesson. Man, the chat is lit as fuck. Strawberry shortcake was literally just of watching your TikTok about Pullman. That's the goal. Marketing. Your classes make me look forward to Wednesdays. ZK Butterworth, thank you for subscribing for 5 months. Oh my God, you guys, today, my best friend at work, it was her last day. I'm so sad. I'm so happy for her because her new job is way cooler and better. But I'm very sad for me. Adorably neurotic, Grocery Store Pete, thank you all for subscribing. Holy shit, Grocery Store Pete, you've been here for 6 months. Also, I want to change the light. I'm going to put a little bit of a softer light. That's better. I feel like that light is better. Spoilers in a Box, thanks for giving out a subscription to the community. We love the community. That's going to be you soon, Mr. Redacted. Y'all said it, not me. OMG, talk show host finally completed the pipeline. Happy to be here on Twitch for the first time. I love the pipeline. So if you're new here, this is what we always say. The pipeline is people go from my TikTok to my YouTube to my Twitch. Some people skip YouTube on the pipeline. Some people are on a water slide on the pipeline and they go straight from TikTok to Twitch. But regardless of how you got here, I am so glad you're here. I always feel bad when people are like, I'm not on Twitch. And I feel like it's easy to sign up. And I don't want you to think that like it's cumbersome and you have to like give a bunch of money because you don't have to do that. And so I just want you to know that. My 30th birthday, it's my 30th birthday and it sucked so far. So happy it fell on a Wednesday to catch live. Oscar 10's happy birthday, dirty 30. 30s I hear are great. I hear the 30s are a great like time in life. So happy birthday. March 1st birthday. You quit your teaching job today. Bobby Flay, holy shit. Holy shit. Had to miss the last two because teacher things. Valid, I guess. This is flat as fuck. I know it made that noise, but it's a very flat. Hey, besties, waiting on my Pizza Hut. Oh, fuck. Pizza would be good right now. I had pizza for lunch. It was so good. It fucked my stomach up. But that pizza was so good. It was worth it. I don't care. This is the beginning. We actually have not really even started. Got a little distracted. Apparently sex is best in your 30s. Also, happy birthday. Whoever said that about their 30s is lying. Relax. My fiance and I make a weekly ritual. Oh my God. How many just the tip jokes can we make? Jesus Christ. Okay. So let's talk about the history of tipping. This is a cool lesson. I feel like you guys are going to be into this. So this lesson is actually way better because I have a planning system now. So what I was doing is like, I have my calendar and that's for work. And then whatever I needed to do for like stream, TikTok, the podcast, the podcast, we have a spreadsheet, and then everything for like my stuff went just on like a random piece of paper or a note on my phone. And I was just feeling like so stressed out and so overwhelmed because I was like, oh my holy fucking shit, I just like have so many things going on. And so I made myself a custom planner on Canva. I would sell it, but it literally is like work shit, stream shit. Like it would not be useful for anyone that's not living my life. And it helped so much. I felt like so much less stressed out and like I did a better job planning everything and it felt less last minute, and I just like, it really helped me a lot. So highly recommend, because I've never been the one to find a planner that helpful. Like, to me, it's always seemed like an extra thing to do, but because this one was custom and I made it for like exactly what I need it for, I really, really liked it. So if you've always struggled with that, maybe try making a custom one. I don't know. Do your coworkers watch your stream? I don't think so. My boss knows about it and she thinks it's like super fun that I do that. I don't think she watches it because she works a lot and has kids, so I don't really think she would be spending her evening doing this. And then some of my coworkers follow me on TikTok, but I don't think anyone is like a stream watcher, personally. Did you have to do the EdTPA? No, I did not. This is my first class of yours. I've been a server and a bartender for 9 years. Oh my God. Oh, for those of you that are on Twitch, TikTok is with us tonight, just so you know. And for those of you on TikTok, on Twitch is where you see the slides and the pictures, and you can like go in the chat and send the little emojis and see like what other people are saying in the chat. And there's more people on there, just so like you have full disclosure of what's happening. All right, let's get started. I've said that 900 times. Let's actually do it. So we are going back old as fuck. I thought we were going to start with like the Great Depression or some bullshit. No, we're going back to 1600, but only for like 2 seconds. I personally think old history is boring as fuck. I'm sorry, I'll say it. We're all allowed to have our passions and our interest, and shit before like the 1850s is not mine. I quite literally just don't care. I don't know how to, like, I would try and sugarcoat that, but like I literally, it's not interesting to me. Like, is it important? Absolutely. Should people learn it? Absolutely. Am I glad I had to learn it in school? Absolutely. Having to learn things that are not interesting pushes your brain and is a great thing for your development. Do I have any desire to talk about it? No. I say as I'm about to talk about it. You're right, though. It's not as interesting. Because to me, what makes history amazing and interesting and like inspiring and depressing and all the things is because it helps you make sense of the world around you. And I think with a really, really ancient history, it's just a lot harder to draw those connections between like the life that you are living and the choices that people made back then. Like, to me, where history really starts to get interesting is the Industrial Revolution, because I think that is when we started to see like the norms that you and I live with today of like a 5-day work week and like kind of the system that we have. But everyone finds different stuff interesting. And then there's like random men that only like to talk about World War II. So there's really something for everyone, if we're being honest. Oh, that was a painful burp. I spent a lot of money today. I spent like $400 today. Damn. Okay, anyway. I just had to do a lot of things. I paid a lot of bills. You know what I mean? It's just an expensive day. All right, so we're going back old as fuck. So according to the Etymology Dictionary, the meaning give a small present of money began around 1600, and the meaning give a gratuity to is first attested in 1706. So the only reason I'm even really including this is because I just wanted you to see that like giving people money extra for services has existed as long as capitalism has existed. Like, as long as we've been paying for goods and services, there's been like more, no more, a little bit more, because that's just human nature. We always want more. Me and my boyfriend spent $200 at Walmart today. Rough. Side note, hair looks amazing. So I always, whenever people are like, oh my God, your hair looks gorgeous, what did you do? I feel so bad. So what I'm about to say, everyone's going to want to kill me. And that's fine. That's literally fine. I worked out with my hair in a bun and then just rinsed the sweat off my body, but didn't get my hair wet in the shower. And then I just took it out of the bun. And this is what it looks like. I didn't even brush it. This is my logic. I have like other genetic issues, like in like mental illness, acne, my teeth were terrible. I had to get so much work done on my teeth. My vision is bad. Like, I have other things. So with my hair, God was just kind of like, you can have a W. Like, you can have a W on this. Like, I'm going to give you the fucking hardest W possible on this. And people at work would say, how do you do your hair? And I'm like, nothing. I'm like, sorry, it's all natural. What I will say is my hair got a lot prettier when I started using a claw clip, because I twist it and then clip it into a bun, and that's how it exists like 80% of the time. So then when I take it out, it does have these curls and waves. It used to be, after I took it out of a bun, it was still like long and healthy and stuff, but it would be like not as styled, if that makes sense. I love your mental illness day TikTok. Yeah, I told my boss that. She's actually taking a day off because of it. I was like, I had lizard time on Monday and you need to go have lizard time. And so she is. I'm excited for her if you're watching this. Alrighty, so the etymology for the synonym of tipping, gratuity, dates back to either the 1520s, so you can see there's some fucking discrepancies here. But basically, it's existed for all of time. In some languages, the term translates to drink money. For example, in France and Germany and in Danish, drink silver in Middle Scots, and in Polish, this comes from a custom of inviting the servant to drink a glass in honor of the guest and paying for it. So you can see like the etymology is different depending on who you ask, and then see like free gift compared to give a gratuity. Like there's kind of different versions of this, but it's kind of been around since humans have had money and been writing shit down. Imagine not coming to an optional history class about the horrid nature of capitalism on a Wednesday night. Oh my god. Chat of the night? Possibly. Me getting lizard time because my doctor won't let me form for 3 days. I think I'm confused. Okay, so as usual, we can blame the British for everything. I've been watching a lot of Crash Course recently, so I'm feeling a little more anti-British than usual. But the practice of tipping, what you and I think of as tipping, began in England. In medieval times, tipping was a master serf custom where the servant would receive extra money for like basically performing well. So if the servant was just like really popping off and doing what they needed to do, they would get like a little extra cash thrown their way. Well, coins. I don't think they were using like bills for the servants. Anyway, by the 17th century, it was expected that overnight guests to private homes would provide sums of money known as avails to the host servants. Soon afterwards, customers began tipping in London at coffee houses and other commercial establishments. So it kind of started in Britain. And it started like exactly how you'd expect, just kind of giving extra money for people or whatever service they were providing. Live, laugh, feudalism. Yeah, for real. And the part about the overnight guest, like I didn't ask you to hire a servant. Like you didn't need to do that. Like there was quite literally, my camera is weird. What's happening to you? There's quite literally no reason that you had to do that. Like you didn't have to have a servant. I didn't have to tip the servant. What are we doing here? Are these saved somewhere? Yes, they go on the YouTube and they stay on Twitch for a full 2 weeks. Also, so when did people start tipping in America? That's what we really give a shit about. We're very American centric over here because I live in America and that's where most of you live, judging by the analytics. So until the Civil War in the U.S., there was no tipping. It was considered a European thing. But then Americans began to travel to Europe, and some of them started doing it in really, really wealthy circles. It wasn't really widespread, but some people would do like the servant bullshit. At the same time, immigrants were coming over from America and were used to getting tipped. So the servants that are coming over to the United States are like, bitch, they used to throw like a little extra coin my way. Like, why aren't you doing that? That's kind of how this works. Hello, teacher redacted. Sorry, I missed the first few streams, but I'm here tonight. It's okay. Okay, but did we all see the TikTok that they were roasting the landlord that said to include gratuity in your rent? So I am a psychopath, and I need to tell you what I think I figured out. So I saw 2 different TikToks. I know which one you're talking about, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw multiple TikToks of landlords posting like a very cringeworthy thing and people just are ripping them apart, which obviously I'm in favor of. But one of them, I was like, it just, the energy of it was off to me. I was like, this is like, no one would post this. Like, what are you gaining by posting this? And just the way they were phrasing it, they knew that they were going to get ripped apart, basically. It was about being like, oh, well, I raised your rent, but my mortgage is raised, so I'm still, like, it was that kind of a vibe. And then everyone was ripping them apart. They got a ton of fucking views. And then I looked and they had been like posting a lot of those. Yes, it's rage bait. That's the word. Oh, I've never heard that. So I think people are using the landlord thing because it's like often talked about sentiment online, that people are using that on TikTok to like get views. I really do think that, because this woman that I saw that posted it, the one that I'm talking about, not this guy you guys are talking about, she had a few other videos that didn't do nearly as well that were super similar. And then like 3 weeks prior, none of her content was landlording. Zero. Like no reference to being a landlord at all. So very, very interesting in my opinion. Very Tara as well. Oh my God, that woman. I love to observe her. It's like watching a plane crash. Okay, but anyway. So the people coming to the United States from Europe were used to getting tipped. And a lot of ways it was seen as a European import. And then there was huge opposition to it because of its feudal nature. So as it started coming over, a few of the rich people adopted it. And then a lot of the service people were expecting it. But people were super fucking against this. People were not into it at all. So they found it, this is the part that's very crazy to me. They found it distasteful and un-American because it was feudal. They were like, this is feudal. We do not like Europe. We are different. No. So people were super against it because they hated Europe. And when you give a tip, they felt you're establishing a class system. By tipping somebody, you rendered them inferior. So it was a caste-bound system and viewed as like an old world thing. It was also called a bribe. People called it blackmail. Like people really rallied against it. It's so annoying because I am baited into rage by it. Oh my God, the landlord thing. So tipping is so American now. Yeah, so people had huge opposition to it at first because they were like, this isn't right. They felt like it was really unequal, which obviously it's the 1800s, so America is not the pillar of equality that these individuals are making it out to be. But people were kind of like, white men that own land were on their equality with each other bullshit. Because that was their whole thing, is that in Britain, they were like, we're not equal here. With the richer people, we want to be equal. So then all the rich white dudes were like, we'll be all equal together. And that's America, is equality, but just the rich white dudes being equal with each other. Thank you for subscribing, Soup Fan. Oh my God, Holly Pocket saying thanks. So then rich white dudes, when some other rich white dudes were paying extra and getting better service, they were like, that's not equality by our definition or any definition, and we don't like it. So even though I know it seems really like weird that these like slave like owning terrible people that didn't allow women and people of color to vote are like preaching equality, but that you kind of have to get into their little mind. You have to get into their pea brain to get into their headspace of realizing like you thought you were doing equality because you didn't even think of those other people as people. So that's where they're at. And are they right? No. But that's where they're at. Where are you getting this info? The internet. So mainly, I used to put my sources on here, but then people weren't reading them and they took up a lot of space. So I usually use Britannica. I sometimes use Wikipedia for more recent events like Woodstock and stuff like that. History.com I'm a big fan of. A lot of this is the later stuff is from a serving blog that I cite later. It depends on the topic. I get info from different places, and then I kind of like will take different charts and data from studies. I also get a lot from like academic studies, the ones that I can find for free online. The second paragraph has many great words. Melody, excellent. Yeah, this one was from, this time I was looking at a New York Times article, a history of like food service website, and then I was also looking at an Economist article. There was like a variety of articles. I think people forget you are literally a history teacher. I will say I've made mistakes. Like I'm not perfect. One of my goals is to eventually like have a different daytime job or no daytime job that I can devote more time to this, because there definitely has been times I made mistakes. Like on history of fast food, McDonald's didn't own Starbucks. I made a mistake. That was incorrect. So I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes before. I try and own up to it. But especially with things that are very much about like people, I try and be careful. I guess everything's about people. Scandal, I know. Hi, I love you. Just hopped in. Hope I didn't miss the whole thing. No, you didn't. I thought you were gonna say my long-term goal is to become perfect. No, that's what I mean. Like I know that I have perfection. I'm capable of it. Like I'm capable of making this perfect. I just don't have the time to do that. So I'm hoping when I have more time, it'll be more perfect. Is the plan. You made a mistake. Hashtag is over. Because I got it from McDonald's wiki fandom, which I should have realized is not the most reliable source in the world. You got to use Sci-Hub to get past the paywalls. I also use like archives and stuff. Okay, but anyway, people were really against tipping. They felt like it was really immoral. They felt like it was very un-American. They felt like it was not egalitarian, which even though they were not truly egalitarian, they thought they were. So yeah, people were not into it for the first couple of decades that it was around in like the early to mid 1800s. And then the Civil War happens. For those of you that don't know, the Civil War is from 1861 to 1865. Where's that gift from? The one of Joe Biden? I have no idea. So I use Giphy for the gifts, and I looked up un-American, and this came up, and I was like, that is literally fucking perfect. Like, this was one of the few times that I really didn't have to dig at all. Because, like, sometimes I'll be going for a while to find the perfect one. It's just a necessity. Oh my God. And then at work, I always send memes, like always, like in our Slack channel, I always send memes, and people are like, how do you have so many memes that you always have ready in like 1 second? And I'm like, no reason. No reason at all. Okay, so the Civil War happened. So the Civil War was over slavery. If anyone says it wasn't over slavery, all the other reasons go back to slavery. If they're like, oh, it was over economics. Yes, over the economic system of slavery. Oh, it was over states' rights. Yes, the states' right to use slavery. So, I just wanted to get that out of the way since slavery is relevant to the conversation that we're talking about. MJ Gutierrez, I've never been live. Welcome, first time chat. Over insert thing related to slavery here. Oof, racism is here. Racism is here. Racism has entered the chat, unfortunately. But to understand like the economic system of slavery, I want to look at the numbers a little bit because I think when you can understand like the big picture of something, it helps you make sure it never happens again. You know what I mean? Like I think when you can understand like all social, economical, political aspects of something, it gives you a full picture. And she can say my last name, Gutierrez. I work in Miami real estate. I can Gutierrez all day. I can say Gutierrez. It's American history, of course. Racism entered the chat. When people say it wasn't over slavery, I say it wasn't really over freeing people. The 2 R's. Fucking Reagan. Okay, so anyway, Gutierrez is a verb now. Will we ever have a class with no slavery? We have. We talked about Woodstock. We didn't talk about slavery then. We talked about Y2K. We didn't talk about slavery. There's been multiple times. Because I mostly do modern U.S. history. So I think it's actually come up less times than it hasn't. Okay, anyway. American history is Barbie. We didn't talk about slavery with Barbie. But American... Sorry, I can't talk. So I wanted you to see the numbers of what percentage of the population was living under slavery in each state, because then what I tell you next will make a lot more sense. So in South Carolina, 57% of the population was living under slavery, Mississippi, 55, Louisiana, 47, Alabama, 45, Florida, 43, Georgia, 43, North Carolina, 33, but North Carolina... These are percentages, not numbers. Virginia, 30, Texas, 30, Arkansas, 25. If you're wondering which state had the highest number of people living in slavery, that would be Georgia, with over 1 million. And this is in the year 1860. Cringes in South Carolina. Yeah, exactly. Sister Wives stream has entered the chat. Yeah, Sister Wives. Okay. Where was I? Of course, Florida is top 5. So... End of the Civil War led to the end of the institution of slavery. Kind of. So, January 31st, 1865, 13th Amendment gets passed. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime. That's still on there, by the way. Whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, now that slavery has been legally abolished in this definition of slavery, there are over 4 million people who are looking for paid work because they're no longer being held as slaves in the South. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated and slower than that. It's not like they passed the 13th Amendment and then all those people walked free the very next day. It was a very long process. In some places took as long as years. I personally think in some areas people probably died living in slavery because they never found out, because our government sucks. But yeah, I just wanted to give the heads up that there's a lot more nuance there. We'll probably talk about it at another point in time, but I wanted to, in case anyone did not have proper education around this, I just wanted to share, oh my God, that it's not like Lincoln was like, everyone's free, and then it was like immediate. Long process. But anyway, moving on. So me looking at except as punishment for a crime in the 13th Amendment, like Juneteenth enters the chat. Exactly. If you want to know what I'm talking about, Google Juneteenth. Love the most recent submissions for Teacher Quit Talk. Oh, glad you liked it. I have a podcast. Someone on my TikTok today commented and they were like, you should have a podcast. And I was like, I do. I'm not good at promoting it. I am late. Oh my God, everyone's chat is purple right now. That's fun. But yeah, 13th Amendment still says, except as punishment for crime, is absolutely insane. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander is a great book in this, BTW. Yeah, that is a really good book. I haven't read the whole thing, but I read different parts of it. Okay, so restaurant owners, I don't know why I put restaurant owners. I meant to put business owners looking at the millions of people without access to land, education, resources, or income. So now that there are 4 million people that for the most part do not have access to, like I said, education, land, a good paying job, these business owners are looking to exploit that. Guys, I can't find my pen. Put an air tag on it, I think is a good idea. So they kind of rebranded the exploitation of slavery because there were millions of young and old men and young women and older women who were now free, but they didn't have jobs, they didn't have land. Like we said, they were not educated for the most part because they never had the chance to go to school. The Freedmen's Bureau did set up some schools and give a few people some land, but generally speaking, people did not have the resources that they need. So it was about this time that business owners began hiring them and being like, oh, well, you can work here and I won't pay you, but people can tip you. So it was kind of set up with that dynamic in like the jump, was literally people that had just been like emancipated from slavery are now working for businesses that are not paying them because they know that they can get away with that, because they as a business owner just want to get more money out of their business and exploit these people. And so they're exploiting this extremely vulnerable group of people immediately following the Civil War. One of the first companies to do this is the company that did it widespread in the game. It's going to ask you, what was the first industry to really do this? It's railroad. The Pullman Car Company was started by George Pullman. He was an engineer where he saw that trains were very uncomfortable. So he was like, let me make trains like kind of a glamour and luxury moment. So he designed a nice train carriage, which was like business class vibes. It was like a sleeper car. You got your bags, you could lay down. They had like servers. It was a whole thing. So one of the biggest perks was to have a porter there to assist you with your baggage, smile, make the bed, amuse your children, answer the bell when you rang it. Think butler vibes. And the growing American middle class who wanted to travel now that the war was over was like, yeah, this seems amazing. I really want to go on a train. And then they were also super into the staff, because if you're middle class, you're not going to have like staff and a servant at your house. So getting to do that is like kind of an exciting, fun thing for people. If I don't pay you, surely someone else will. Yeah, pretty much. It was like, they were like, instead of me giving you a job, let me just give you the facility to try and get money from other people, is basically what they were doing here. So here is a Pullman ad, so you can see the vibes. They went across a lot of parts of the US, and then me trying to not get excited about widespread rail travel because I know it's about to get racist. I mean, it already did get racist, if we're being honest. I just really like rail infrastructure. So who did Pullman hire for his porters? He only hired black men, and not just exclusively black men, only Southern black men, only black men that had been living under slavery. Why? He says that the plantation, this is a quote, this is not misredacted talking, this is a quote. He says, the plantation has more or less trained them to be pleasing to the customer. I'm sorry, what? This feels like a pyramid scheme somehow. Exactly. Okay, so he did pay them a wage, but it was like pretty nothing. It was between $12 and $27 a month. $27 a month would be $539.94. So literally almost nothing. Like when you were thinking almost nothing. And that's the high end. That 539 was the high end. Someone figure out what $12 in 1860 would be in 2022. So if someone wants to do me a favorite. The gasp I just ghost. White Americans being sickening again. Yeah, it's really high end of $6K a year. Yeah. I love videos of trains on YouTube. Why must everything have a racist history? Because this is America. Obviously. Is there some way I can see what you're showing? Yes, it's on Twitch. It's the first link on my link tree. I have slides. I have pictures. It's the whole grand old time. It's free to watch. As a caregiver, that $539 looks great to me. So in some states, I found out that the government will pay you to caregive for a family member, which I think is dope as fuck. Because I've always found it interesting that the government would pay for government facilities when, like, I feel like a lot of people would prefer to just get like a living stipend and be able to take care of their family themselves rather than have them be far from them. Obviously not everyone, but I've always found that was interesting. Oh, I'm a paid contracted caregiver. Oh, I thought you meant you were like, what's it called? Like a full-time caregiver for like someone in your life. $220 and $25. So imagine living on $220 for a whole month. God, horrifying. Oh no, now someone's saying it's $430. Regardless, neither one of those is doable. Not a lot, and it's hard to quality. Sometimes I think I'm illiterate. But anyway, nobody could live on that wage. The rest of the wage was made up in tips from the patrons of the train. So that became the time that tipping really, really spread. So even though he was not the first business to do this, he was the first one to really widespread it and normalize it and do it on a big scale. So when in the game, it says, what industry did this first? Railroad. It's railroad. Railroad. I lived off $225 after college. I feel like I'm also biased because I live in Miami and literally everything is $1,000 here. A chicken parking lot subscribed. Thank you for being here. Alrighty, so here are some pictures of the men that worked on the Pullman rail cars. I don't know if this photo was like recolored later or if it's just a more recent photo. Florida is getting too expensive to live in. Yeah, it really, really is. You can pretty much blame all our country's problems on either slavery or Ronald Reagan. That is, in fact, true. Here's another picture with the bags loading up the train. I just kind of wanted to give you context of the time period. Here's this man who's not being paid for his work adequately, holding this white woman's bag as she has the vacation of her lifetime. Another picture so you can see uniform, what the train looked like on the outside, people entering the train. Yeah. This is why I only like looking at modern history, really, like anything 1850s and beyond, because I think that like pictures are an amazing way to learn something, and pictures give you so much more insight into like the actual like lives people were leading. Like when you can see their clothes and their facial expressions and their surroundings, like I think it's just really more telling. Oh, for those of you on TikTok, on Twitch is where you can see all the pictures. It's on the first link of my link tree, XOXO Gossip Girl. Come to Ohio, it's kind of okay. But the toxic air, no thanks. Love photos and history. Maybe if the Bible had pictures, I would feel better about it. Exactly. Alrighty, so who is this George Pullman individual who created this lovely universe we live in today? He's an American industrialist and, like we said, an inventor of the car. He also is famous for the Pullman strike. In the Pullman strike, he had many employees. I believe these were not like the people that served the customers, but like the train workers, like the more industrial workers that like handled the rails and stuff like that. I don't really know how trains work. But anyway, he had them living in a company town. Oh, you found your pen. Congratulations. I thought it said he died in 1987. I was like, damn, what the fuck? But anyway, Pullman had a company town. A company town basically just means that the town you live in is owned by the company you work for. So sometimes your rent is free and you just get paid a lot less. Sometimes you pay your rent directly to them. Sometimes you get a discount. It depends. This is not really a thing anymore because it's really exploitative to workers, but Amazon is trying to make it a thing again. And some school districts are making it a thing for teachers. So very much a thing to look out for. Maybe we'll do another class about like labor unions and company towns. Very dystopian. Not the railroad being exploitative from the jump. The Disney college program did that. Yes, a lot of times like education type programs do it. It's indentured servitude, pretty much. And then it's also like, it's really hard to find a new job because you're really isolated. But anyway, in his company town, he laid off a fuck ton of workers. He fired like a third of those bitches. And then, so now the people left have to do way more work, i.e. me. My job keeps laying people off. Hashtag blessed. Bay Dog Mom, oh my God, thank you for subscribing. So now all his employees have to work a ton more. And then he also cut their wages. I think he cut their wages by 25%. But he didn't lower the rent in the company town. So like, bitch, what the fuck? So those people went on strike and it like got really dramatic and the military got involved and like the president got involved. It was honestly fucking crazy. We should really do a class about it. But yeah, that is just kind of to give you general context of who this man is. So his whole racism, not paying black men to do a job and then just having people tip them, although that is a very large red flag, 'twas not his only one. He had many other red flags, this being one of them. So overall terrible. That's why Congress gets to choose whether railroad workers go on strike now. Exactly. Which is crazy. A Whataburger parking lot. I love when you guys make your names similar to my name. It makes me laugh. Especially on Twitch. For some reason, when people do it on TikTok, I'm like, but when people do it on Twitch, I'm like, oh my God, that's so fun. Oh, there's more. Yeah, but he is not a good person by any stretch of the imagination. When another evil American system can be traced back to some random greedy white dude in the 1800s who looks like a cartoon villain. Like, he literally looks like exactly what we would expect. Like, he looks like a greedy 1800s railroad tycoon. That's exactly what he's giving. Exactly. The labor uprisings in the South were legendary, and this dude caused one of the biggest ones. Yeah, exactly. Fuck around and find out, my friend. Oh, but the workers kind of got screwed over. Oh, this is from an NPR article. Someone who asked where I get my sources. NPR is a big one. Oh, I love NPR. NPR is one of my favorite sources. I feel like they are very good at doing work. He didn't even make it past 1897. My God. Oh, there's more. Okay, so I don't love the verbiage in this article. Just wanted to get that out of the way. But why were these men working for Pullman? Like, why would you accept that kind of job? For one, a lot of them who had been born on plantations are now getting to travel and leave the South, and that is just inherently creating and exposing them to a lot more opportunity. And two, the main reason, there were not really other jobs available. So it wasn't as like demanding of your body as plantation work and sharecropping is. So I can see where at the time, if you really don't have any economic opportunities, this economic opportunity is definitely not the worst one that you could choose from. And the conductors of the train were always white men, and the porters of the train were always black men. So that is kind of the dynamic they've set up across this company. I wonder, does this company still exist? Someone should do a timeline of this. I changed the goddamn font size on this 3 different times and saved it, and it never saved. Nearpod is in her flop era. Ugh. Okay, so what was the reaction of this? What was the reaction of this at the time? Like we said, people fucking hated it. They still hated it. They complained about it all the time, saying that everywhere we go, it's like a shakedown and we have to pay and then pay twice. We pay for our food, then we pay for service. Why do we have to do all this? And it was to the point that when William Taft ran for president in 1908, one of his biggest boasts was that he didn't tip his barber, and then he became like the patron saint of the anti-tipping crusade. So, people were against it when it first came here and was like very medium. And then when the Pullman guy kind of widespread it, people still didn't like it. So it's crazy that it's catching on so much when people, like, literally everyone's hating it. NPR and IPA give the same vibes acronym wise. Like, they elicit a business major type of vibe in the same way. As an Ohioan, fuck Taft. I did not know that people had such strong opinions about Taft. Very interesting. Are we one of the only developed countries that tip? We're going to talk about tipping in other places. They do tip other places, but it's very different. So, William Scott in 1916 wrote, tipping and the aristocratic idea that the aristocratic idea it exemplifies is what we left Europe to escape. It is a cancer on the breast of democracy. Go off. People were mad. William did not hold back. It seems so dystopian. Taft is responsible for so much anti-union bullshit. Oh, you're right. That makes sense. These lives make my whole week. Good, bitch. Is Taft the one that got stuck in the bathtub? I believe so. You pulled that from very far back in my brain. Thank you. Tipping in Australia is definitely not the norm. Some places try and sneak it on your bill, but you can just change it to $0. Yeah. This whole stream is blowing my mind. Always thought tipping was from Prohibition, not before. Oh, we'll talk more about Prohibition. So, Miss Morgan, a war against tips. So this is Miss Anne Morgan, daughter of the late J.P. Morgan, inherited a big slice of the Morgan millions, but even so doesn't believe in spending her wealth in restaurant tips. So she started an anti-tipping crusade by opening a no-tip restaurant. With the assistance of several other well-known women, Miss Morgan is financing a popular price cafe on the roof of the Strand Theater in New York. It's not just a rendezvous for society, it's a popular priced, well-managed eat shop run like any other restaurants, except it is against the rules to tip the waiters. Would love to know if she is paying her waiters more than like the average business at the time. Would love to know about this. Of course, there's a connection to JP Morgan. I love when American history be hitting like this. I love when American history drops some big-ass company names that you're like, bitch, this is American as fuck. Like when you learn about the Titanic and there's like the fucking Macy's guy on there. I love when shit like that happens. It feels like a movie. It's like, I know that character. It's like in Marvel movies when like random other characters show up and all the men are like, I know him. I'm against tipping because it's a way for restaurants to get out of paying a living wage, but would still like to be passed on to the food costs because like it wouldn't get any cheaper to go out. Boomers are dense. It's a shit system. Capitalism doesn't have many other ways. Santa, I know him. All right, people are still not fucking with tipping, and things got super racist, as fucking usual. I hate this country. Alrighty, so as this like national debate over tipping is going, some of the comments in the media were incredibly racist. So for instance, a journalist named John Speed, which sounds like a fake name. John Speed sounds like you have a fake boyfriend and someone was like, what's his name? And you had to think of something. That's what that sounds like. Mr. Dacta did her Ariana Grande, I hate America, don't it? So he said, I'm not going to say this antiquated term. He said, Black people take tips. Of course, one expects that of them. It is a token of their inferiority. But to give money to a white man was embarrassing to me. I felt defined by his debasement and civility. So they're literally, their argument, they're like, this is not who we are. It is not egalitarian. It creates a caste system. That's totally fine if the people aren't white, by the way. Like, that is their whole stance. That's their entire take. John Speed was my nickname in high school. Oh, my God. John Speed is definitely a dealer from 1997. I know someone named Speed Ford. Like, that's his government name. God. Wait, you're telling me the story it got more racist? I don't buy it. Exactly. So they're basically saying, like, we're okay with this weird system of tipping as long as it's not for white people. We want them to get paid, and we don't want to have this little awkward interaction where they feel like we're pitying them because we're all white. So that would be really embarrassing for both of us. But they're like, when the people aren't white, it's fine. They're like, we are A-okay with that. Yeah, big yikes. Leedle yeety, big fucking yikes. Massive yikes. Are his parents cousins? Oh my God. But yeah, so things got more racist. Shocker. Then in 1915, this part fucking confused me, and I tried to find more information, and I'm really unclear about why this happened. So in 1915, several states passed laws prohibiting tipping, and then all of those bans were overturned or ruled unconstitutional later. Why were so many states prohibiting tipping? And like, it just seems like that happened really fast, that several states did it all at the same time. It was just funny to me. So, thoughts on tipping also shifted with Prohibition. Prohibition is really what changed the people's minds. So that's probably why a lot of those laws got repealed. That actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't really think about that because I did that and then did the Prohibition stuff later. So that makes sense. So lots of places banned tipping. And then when Prohibition rolled around, that's when people started fucking with tipping. Because they were like, oh, maybe if I give the server a tip, they'll give me a little alcohol. They're like, I like it now. They're like, no, I get it. I get it. I get the whole thing now. I understand. So, one, it was because restaurateurs saw revenue from alcohol sales dried up and then began accepting tips as a way to ease the financial pressure of paying employees. So, even though the railroad industry was the one that made this really widespread at first, the restaurant industry is really the industry that took it over, and it became standard in the restaurant industry. So, Pullman spread it, but not everyone goes on railroads, and there's not a ton of railroad companies. Restaurants is really where it started to become the standard of service there. So like I said, people would also try and get employees to give them alcohol. And this is the time that tipping became much more normalized and widespread, and people began to accept it as kind of a fact of life. People were like, oh, I have to tip at places, and people kind of started to get their head around the idea. How can I pay employees less or not at all, ideally? The story of a miracle. I love when you connect the dots of your own slideshow while presenting it. Have you done a Prohibition stream? I think so. I think I did one about Prohibition and organized crime. If not, I should. Okay. So then America entered its protecting workers era, kind of. Obviously, tipping became a ton more used by businesses during the Great Depression because then it was even harder to pay your employees. So it just got even worse during the Great Depression. And then in 1938, as a part of the New Deal, the first federal minimum wage law was established in United States history. So that kind of made it you fucking have to pay your employees. It was 25 cents an hour. If you don't know what the New Deal is, basically when the Great Depression happened, no one did anything for a couple years. And then Franklin Delano Roosevelt got elected president and was like, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. And he did a bunch of public works projects, reforms, regulating banks, things like that. That's what the New Deal is. It's just a series of shit that he did to try and make America less awful. So yeah, that's the first time we start to see the government be like, no. Play nice and make them pay their employers. So, did servers get the new minimum wage? No. Restaurant workers were not included, so it became a law that restaurant owners do not have to pay the 25 cents. This excluded them from the minimum wage and kind of codified that you were paying your workers only through tips. That sort of is the nail of the coffin of getting a fair wage. So the tipping practice is ended in every single industry except restaurants. So that's why we think of tipping only being at restaurants, is because they were conveniently excluded from this law when America briefly entered its caring about workers era. And yes, I am on Twitch if you would like to see the slides. So then in 1942, the Supreme Court ruled, this is hilarious to me that we had to take this all the way to the fucking Supreme Court. Why did what happen? The Supreme Court ruled that if an employee gets a tip, they get to keep the money. We had to get to the Supreme Court for that. That could have been answered in an email. Obviously, they didn't have email in 1942, but me watching this as someone who has to be at their serving job in less than 12 hours. This star is actually a sticker on Redbubble. I stole it. Sorry. I meant to put the person's name, but it got cropped off. God, this country is awful. Be for real. This could have been a telegraph. Well, except for the portion the government gets to keep. Damn, I did that for 6 years. Oh no, it's legal now. So employers at the time could not force the employees to share with the kitchen staff. We had to go to the Supreme Court for that. When did that change? We will discuss. We will discuss. I think 2018. 2018. No, that's wrong. It was earlier than that. Anyway, I digress. So, a minor improvement, I guess. In 1966, Congress created the tip credit, which illegally allows restaurants to pay workers sub-minimum wage, accepting tips that will get them over the minimum wage. So now the rule is, let's say I am working at a restaurant and I make $2.13 an hour because that is the tipped wage. If no one comes to the restaurant and I don't make anything in tips, my boss has to make up the difference and at least get me to minimum wage. So your boss isn't allowed to pay you less than minimum wage, but they're allowed to pay you less if you're making enough in tips. So this is why it's like a little trickier. It doesn't really make it a ton better, especially because the minimum wage is so low. When I used to work at the Ren Fair, I didn't do food service, but we weren't allowed to say huzzah because it was seen as soliciting tips. Oh my God. That's so bullshit. Yeah, so they set the tip credit as a percentage of the minimum wage ranging between 40 and 60% until 1996 when Congress froze the sub-minimum wage for workers at $2.13 an hour. You're joking me. It's still $2.13 an hour. That's also not enforced. Yeah, a lot of this shit is not enforced. So here is a map. It also is very much up to the states of what they're going to do. So in this dark blue color, California mainly, in these like west states. I cannot stop burping. I'm sorry. Those are states that require employers to pay a tipped employee the full minimum wage before tips. So these are areas where these people are making a full minimum wage. In states that are this light blue or this like medium blue color, states that require employers to pay a tipped employees a base minimum wage above the federal minimum wage. So that would be like if the tipped wage is like $4 an hour. It's still not minimum wage, but it's higher than the lowest amount you can go. And then this like super light blue color is states that have the same base minimum wage as the federal tipped minimum wage, which is $2.13 an hour. This is as of October 2022. A restaurant does not guarantee that you make your tips, will make you tip out others and declare your tips to be taxed. That sounds accurate for Illinois. Yeah, this is pretty recent, so I'd assume it's mostly accurate. So, in 2018, the U.S. Department of Labor updated tip pooling laws to include back-of-house staff and tip pooling. So, that law that said you can't give it to kitchen staff, now it can be given to kitchen staff. Somewhere in between there, we also have the gray area of non-kitchen staff, like busboys, bartenders, hosts, things like that. Tip pooling, I don't think our government has really regulated it on the front of house side. They've only regulated it between front of house and back of house. Arizona rent be $1,000, but pays workers $2.13 an hour. So, like I said, 2018 is when this changed, but I'm kind of tripping off this because I used to have to do that shit before 2018. So like someone said, the restaurant industry is extremely fucking unregulated. The restaurant industry gets away with doing so much illegal shit to their employees because their employees a lot of times don't have an HR that they can go to. They don't have an advocate for themselves. They don't have like the employment law knowledge to know that these things are illegal. So a lot of people are having to tip out when they weren't legally supposed to be doing that. And then there's also a lot of restaurant owners that put themselves in tip pool. Like that show Kitchen Nightmares, I fucking love Kitchen Nightmares. Like on Kitchen Nightmares, Gordon Ramsay like cursed a guy out for doing that. Gordon Ramsay, he's for the waitresses. He is for the waitresses. Waiters. What's the gender neutral version of waiters, waitresses? Servers. Gordon Ramsay's for the servers. Restaurants are the Wild West. They really, really are. So here's a super long timeline. It's super tiny. You probably can't even read it. But basically, this is a giant timeline of everything that we talked about all the way from the 1850s. This is when wealthy Americans discovered tipping up to 2018, where we have that back of house being included in tipping pools. Daddy for that. So who makes tips today? Now that we're kind of up to speed, let's talk about the tipping culture and the problems of today. So 58% of tipped workers are waiters, servers, bartenders. So even though it started with a rail, now, oh, Miss Frazzled is here. Shh, pay attention to my bitch. Celebrity guest in the chat. Fraz does come in casually. So most tipped workers are in the food service industry, even though that's not exactly the first major industry to do it. It's really one of the ones that stuck. 69% of waiters, waitresses are women. And then the most common races are white, Hispanic, and then black. The average age is 30. So just to give you kind of a breakdown of who tipped workers are, there's a much higher percentage of people of color working in the food service industry than there is in, like, if you did the population, disproportionate. That's what I meant to say. So a lot of the things that we learned about that happened in the 1800s really like trickle into this system today, obviously, because that's how history works. So does service actually affect tips? This is what I found really interesting. So one study found that the quality of service can really only affect a tip within 5% of the size of the tip. So it's really not making a huge difference in the quality of service that the person is giving. Is not making a huge difference to the tip that they're receiving. And then researchers found that 85% of Americans admit that they're just following the social norm when they leave a tip, and that they'll tip regardless of service quality because everyone else does. I definitely am that way too. I will tip, this is usually what I do. I usually tip around like 22, 23%. If service was just like not stellar, I'll tip, but like no problems happened, like crazy, I'll tip 20%. If it was fucking awful, like so bad, not the waitress was overwhelmed, I'll tip you 100%. Like if you're in a restaurant and it's super, like there's no one there, but you still get terrible service, the person's super rude. Like I've probably done it one or two times ever. I'll tip like 10 or 15%. But I don't think I've ever not tipped. Anyway, we'll talk about this later. I digress. Where was I? 60% of Americans say they tip to avoid personal feelings of guilt. So all the data is telling us that people tip regardless, but from my personal experience, giving good service does make a big difference. I worked in a restaurant for a very long time. I've worked in a couple different restaurants. I worked for a very nice hotel that had a restaurant inside of it, or a couple restaurants. I just worked at one of them. Someone on staff would need to slap me in the face. Exactly. That's the only reason I would leave a zero tip. But I think giving the good service can make a difference just in what I've observed, where servers that give great service usually do make more in tips, especially if there's some kind of a relationship. I think this is especially true if you have regulars, or like if it's at a hotel where you serve the same people multiple times on their vacation. That's when I think giving good service can really give you like a leg up, and you can make much more in tips if you're giving good service. But I think a lot of times it does not make a huge difference. So I think it's kind of a little bit of both. If the person is good, I tip 20%. If they're really bad, I tip 15%. Yeah, it takes so much for me to not tip 20%. There's really only a few times I've ever done it. So one argument for the tipping system is that workers can make more money. The analysis of Census Bureau data by William Evan and David McPherson finds that workers in states with the federal tipped minimum wage reported $15.51 per hour on average in 2020. So that is a lot more than the minimum wage. So one kind of argument is like, yeah, the tipped wage is so low, but I make more in tips than I would make if I had a good hourly wage. So like, I'm a happy camper. This is just a peak trend of earnings growth. Tipped by workers reported earnings in these states have risen 61%. So apparently people are making a lot more in tips over the last 20 years as well. So that's a big argument for people. Crazy idea. Hear me out. Pay minimum wage and tips. Crazy idea. No. So the average hourly earnings for tipped restaurant earnings reached 1551. Like we said, here's a graph. They've been steadily up. I have another theory to this. I think it's also because places are more short-staffed. I think it's because it's becoming really normal to have an extremely skeleton staff at all times, and really, really talented servers love a skeleton staff. they prefer it. In line with inflation if tipping is a percentage. Yeah, I think that's it too. It's also in line with the increase of food cost as well. So I think this is all very, very layered. Yes, thank you for bringing up inflation. Sober as a pigeon. Not sober as a pigeon. Rich don't tip people that get it too. Did you look into tipping for pizza delivery drivers? I did that for 2 years. Interesting. And our base wage while driving was $4.50. I worked at a pizza restaurant and our delivery drivers got minimum wage and then they would make tips on top of that. And then I was a host at first and then I served. But I was a host and I made minimum wage too. That's crazy. That driving a whole ass car, they probably made you pay for your own gas too. I was not built to be a server. I'm not built to be a server either. I'm not very good at it. I would cry in the bathroom. Cry in the walk-in, girl. Alrighty, so to me, this is a little bit of a chicken and an egg debate because they're saying that states where they have one fair wage, there's a minimum wage for everybody like California, there's no lower tipped wage. They're saying that poverty rates are lower. This is, like I said, chicken and egg because those states also have a much higher minimum wage. So like if a state that has a minimum wage of $7.25 does this, I don't think it would have the same impact. But you get what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you're doing better. But it's like, we need to dig a little deeper than that because I think it would screw a lot of people over. I worked at Papa John's. They made us pay gas and insurance. They gave us 78 cents per delivery and $4.50 an hour. Oh my God. Crying in the walk-in does hit very different. So here's the poverty rates for workers in tipped industries and minimum wage levels. So non-tipped workers, very low poverty in states that have one fair wage. This chart is kind of confusing. So you can see 10% of people living in poverty in states that have one fair wage for non-tipped workers. And then in states that have that like mid, the one where it's higher than 213, you guys can fucking read the chart. It's a little bit higher rates of poverty, and then states that have the extremely low one, it's very high rates of poverty. So again, do we think that these rates of poverty are because of the tipping, or are they just because of the average wage of the state? Can I cry in the Costco dairy walk-in? Not the same, because the part of the experience of crying in the walk-in is that is not meant for a person to be in there. So like objects are touching you and you can smell them very, very strongly. Like crying when they're like against a bag of lettuce, like the lettuce is just like right here. Like it's right here is just a different experience. Crying party in the Costco dairy walk-in. Exactly. I do miss the darkness. That too. We're too blocked with boxes to cry in. Exactly. Saran wrapped containers. In the walk-in restaurant, so the cold feet freeze to the ground. Exactly. And then it's also, I worked at an outdoor restaurant, so I wasn't crying there. I was just standing, just to not be sweating for one moment in time. But anyway, all of these charts that I feel like they're like, this is the solution. I'm like, you need to like think a little bit harder about this. So part of the reason that we still have this extremely low wage for workers is because the restaurant industry lobbies the government very heavily. The food and beverage industry, which that is not just restaurants, that's also like McDonald's, which is a fast food restaurant, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, people like that, spent $27 million on lobbying. There are 81 people that they lobbied to. They have 324 lobbyists. And then the number of revolvers is 237 or 73%. A revolver, for those of you that were here last week, is someone who is going through the revolving door between government jobs and being a lobbyist. So that's like if you worked for the Department of Energy and then you went to go be a lobbyist for a coal company. And then you got a new job at the Department of Energy. And then 10 years later, you went to go be a lobbyist. So these are people that just flip-flop between these in order to really fuck everyone except themselves over. A Walmart Cinnabon. People had smecky time in our walk-in freezer. Oh my God. Petition to ban lobbying. Living in DC is hell because it's full of these people. So a company, wait, where was I? The company that servers are paying called ServeSafe. I talked about this in the TikTok. ServeSafe is a restaurant certification that basically says you know how to handle raw chicken, you know how to wash vegetables correctly, all of that. ServeSafe doubles as a fundraising arm for this lobbying for the National Restaurant Association. They are the largest lobbying group for the fast food industry. They represent more than 500,000 restaurant businesses, and they have spent decades fighting any increases to minimum wage as well as the sub-minimum wage. So I think it is fucking crazy that ServSafe ruined my life, and I'll never look at leftovers the same. Oh my God. I taught my boyfriend how you cannot put hot in the fridge. You have to wait for it to cool down to room temperature or it will kill us. It won't. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be fine. Probably 99 times out of 100, you're going to be fine. Hearing ServSafe gave me PTSD. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court said lobbying was legal. We need an anti-lobby lobby. I second anti-lobbying lobby. It's a monopoly. No one pays for certification for safety like ServSafe, yet most states and health departments require it. It's fucking expensive. It costs like $200. So I did ServSafe when I worked at the hotel, but the hotel paid for it, and it was like a little in-person class. I did not realize that a lot of servers have to pay for their own ServSafe training. The first couple restaurants I worked at, we didn't have to be ServSafe. Just the managers did. So the managers had it, and then they would just tell us the stuff. But then when I took it, I just assumed the business always paid for it. But people on TikTok were telling me, and the internet was telling me when I was researching, that a lot of people have to pay for it themselves. My company paid for mine, but it was an online course. A lot of people do it online. The only reason I think the company that I worked for did it in person is because they were a major company. Like, they're a huge hotel chain. So they like work directly with ServSafe, and we did it like everybody at one time in a conference room. So it was just like much more efficient to do it that way rather than having to provide all of us with a computer. Looking at Redacted's beautiful hair. Is ServSafe something different than a food handler's permit? I believe so. ServSafe is like a private company in its own thing. We discussed the hair. Don't even worry. I paid for mine, and there were drive time and class on my own when they were in person. You had to pay for it and in person? The online course is hell. I'm working through it right now, and I want to gouge my eyes out. Because when I did it, it was in person. It was like 4 or 5 hours, and then it was a multiple choice test, and they like kind of let us work together. A bar I worked for took the cost of our alcohol serving training out of our paychecks. Jesus Christ. When I worked at Disney, they had their own food handlers training. Of course, Disney has its own food handlers training. Ava Jobbean, thank you for subscribing with Prime. We love a subscription. Glitter Bearded Gaming, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Lots of follows too. Kelly, Plausible Pocker, Ender Snowman, SV Cruise 1, Cutthroat Piggy, Cat 1 Udon, Ember Sapphire, Neil Will 242, Loba Mio, MRO 6969. So many people with us tonight. Finally followed the pipeline. Had YouTube recordings on work like a podcast for the past month or so. Oh my God. I love when people are on the YouTubes, period. I'm hungry. We're talking about restaurants a lot now. I want to eat. Go Puff, shut the fuck up. I'm not ordering anything tonight. So tipping furthering inequality today. Even if a tipped worker has like excellent service, like we said, it has shown that certain biases can affect tipping, especially against women and women of color specifically. Tipping creates a dining system where people of color, elders, women, and those of foreign descent often get worse service along because of the stereotypes around tipping. Like a lot of times there's a stereotype around people of certain races or the elderly not tipping. So then a lot of times they get really subpar service, and then it creates like a self-fulfilling prophecy where then if you're getting subpar service, then you are not going to tip, and then that person is going to go give even worse service to the next person. Not to say it's the responsibility of the people that are getting bad service to tip anyway, but I think it just like adding tipping into it creates the opportunity for this very interpersonal discrimination to happen. You know what I mean? Go Puff heard your hunger. We don't even have Go Puff here, living in squalor. Exactly. Alrighty, so white servers also routinely make more than their non-white counterparts. So One Fair Wage shared that 50% of all women and 58% of women of color reported insufficient tips to meet the minimum wage. Like we said, not really regulated even though they're supposed to. And harassment has always been reported in the restaurant industry, and a lot of times people feel like they have to put up with it in order to make enough money in tips, especially in the pandemic where especially a lot of women were saying that customers were asking them to take their mask off, and we're saying, oh, let me see your smile, and it was affecting their tips when people had certain thoughts and feelings about them wearing a mask. Who could thunk when white folk don't unpack their biases, they might treat people less? It's almost like that's how this whole problem started. Racism is a circle, an infinity loop of terribleness. Okay, so another big aspect of the tipping conversation that people have been talking about recently is that more and more places are asking customers for tips or prompting them for tips with some kind of system. This is partially due to tech. I put a question mark improvements because I don't know if this counts as an improvement in my opinion. But more businesses are using touch screens that usually already have an option to tip. So let's say I'm starting a business and I'm going to start a candle store. It's a retail candle store. Traditionally, you would not tip here. If my computer system already has that in there, am I going to go out of my way to reach out to the company to get rid of it? Probably not, especially because if your employees know that you got rid of it, they're going to be fucking pissed at you. So it's part of the reason is the technology behind it. Another part is tipflation. As workers need more money to live on, this is what we were talking about with that graph, and businesses are paying more for products, they really don't want to increase wages because now that food costs are up, cost of gas is up, all those things, business owners are just looking for even more ways to cut cost. And so a lot of that is going into that tip as well. Has anyone seen, we've been discussing the landlord asking for a tip on TikTok. I always tip because I'm scared of getting canceled. You could spit on me and I'd tip. The amount of times I've tipped on someone when buying a water bottle at a mall store. Hitting the no tip button hurts me, but I'm not tipping on a t-shirt. Oh my God. Okay, so Michael Lynn, a professor of consumer behavior and marketing at Cornell, has studied tipping for decades. He says that tablet tipping data is hard to come by and harder to compare to pre-tablet tipping data, because I was trying to find like a stat about like X number of businesses started asking for tips. Like I was trying to find like a statistical increase of percentage, but this is just very, 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 very difficult to track. Literally, if they just turned the iPad around, I feel in their eyes, they just 20%. Oh, I heard that most of the time tip goes to the company and the workers don't see it. Don't let the iPad kids find this stream. Yeah, a lot of people have that theory, and I think it depends on the business. Like I said, a lot of times this isn't really regulated. There was also a Vox article that talked about this, and I just wanted to share some of the examples of the times that tipping was prompted. Spiffy 6 cents, thank you for following and subscribing. I just kicked my desk. Do Subway workers get their tips? Usually, this is not always, actually, let me shut the fuck up. I was going to say usually national chains are better about this. National chains have more to lose if they get in trouble, but a lot of them are run by franchisers, so never mind. That's literally wrong. That's why I usually tip in cash. Yes, you should always try and tip in cash. It's hard. I don't carry cash either. So fun idea that I had when I was working at that hotel, so the guys that worked and the women that worked at the pool would get tips a lot because they would like set up towels for people, get little floaties for them. So they would tip them sometimes. And then people would be like, oh, I don't have cash. I left my wallet in the room. Cause like you're at a pool at your hotel. You're not going to bring your whole ass wallet. So what I was telling them they should do, but the company was like not that into because they thought it was a bad look, which weird. Is I said they should all print out their Venmo QR codes and like Cash App QR codes, laminate them, and then put them, you know, those little card things that you can like take your card and pull it out, like it's like retractable. They should put them on those so that people can just scan it, and then you can just like keep it on your shorts pocket, like your belt loop. My friend who worked at Subway told me they didn't get their tips unless you directly said this is for you. Interesting. You can get stickers with your Venmo code for your server book. Another good idea. My nail place does that. They have everyone's Venmos and Cash Apps instead. When I was a lifeguard, I wasn't supposed to get tips, but one mom forced me to take a 20 when her kid puked twice. I couldn't give her the money back with my dirty gloves, lol. So when I was a lifeguard, I would get tipped when I helped them set up for birthday parties sometimes. Because if you were having a birthday party, you had to pay, and then they would have an extra lifeguard there. So I would like, if I was the extra, I would like help them with shit, and sometimes they would give me money. Usually they would just give me food and extra birthday cake. Oh my God, I was scrolling TikTok and popped up and it scared me. I thought I'd broken time and space. Wait, if I tip at a restaurant on my card, do the servers not always get that? I would say at restaurants, most of them do, but every business runs differently. A lot of restaurants do tip pooling, so it really just varies. Depends. When I worked at Chuck E. Cheese as a party host, we had to tip out Chucky 35%. Stop, not Chucky. Chucky's like, run me my fucking money, bitch. So anyway, back to the examples of tips that times people got asked to tip. So Jenny Kivett went to see the band War on Drugs at the Colorado Red Rocks Amphitheater. And then when she bought merch, the vendor prompted her to kick in a 20% tip for the $80 purchase. This was at a zero waste store in Portland. Zero waste stores, it's like you bring your own container and fill it up with soap is kind of their vibe. So he picked a few dishwasher pods and then brought them up to the cashier, and then the tablet asked for a tip, so that's a retail. And then this is picking apples. She made the reservation online, and when she made the reservation was asked to leave a tip between 10 and 20%. The last one really fucking sent me. The making a reservation to pick apples online and it asking you to tip their staff. Like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about right now? I'm picking the apples. And it's your staff, and I just made the reservation. Like, Charles was only at the party for 5 minutes and he got almost half. Not you using his government name of Charles. I can't believe Walmart pickup employees can't take tips. Interesting. There also are a lot of businesses that don't let their employees take tips. Like at Publix, they have to wear a no tipping, please. But the guy in my Publix told me if someone gives you money, you are allowed to take it. Actually, maybe he just said that because I gave him money. Because I had a lot of water bottles. It was for a thing. I didn't want to carry that to my car. Normally, I don't ask for help, but you know. Okay. Anyway. So there's also like the customer manipulation factor of it, which really doesn't sit well with me, because a lot of times they're designed to push the customer into like tipping more than they realize they're tipping, because businesses can set the amounts to anything they want. So they can do 10, 15, 20 or 20, 25, 30. Like the place I went today, it was 20, 22, 25. And I was like, oh no, what? They can also request dollar amounts instead of percentages. So basically, if you buy like a $3 chocolate or something, or then it's like, oh, you want to tip $1? Do you want to tip $2? So instead of asking you a percentage, it'll ask you a whole number if it knows that you're like buying under a certain threshold. Like the computer, depending on how much you spend, will give you different options for tipping. And then on some interfaces, the no tip buttons are smaller and a lot harder to find than the suggested amount. So it kind of puts you in this awkward thing where you have to opt out rather than opting into it. So this is just something that I'm interested in personally, like user experience design and technology and how it affects like human behavior and like how we can use that to be terrible, I think is something we should all be talking about. And I think this is a great example of that, of how user experience is creating this like really specific experience for people. That's what it does at Panera. When I worked there, it'd be 50 cents, $1 and $2. Truly everything is a scam. McDonald's doesn't let you tip. They put it in their charity bucket. Oh, for the Ronald McDonald House. So do other countries have the same tipping system as the United States? Like we said, if you're in the US, 15 to 20% minimum. I would say 20% minimum unless something fucking crazy happened. TripAdvisor, that's what the TripAdvisor recommendation was the 15 to 20. Canada and Colombia, similar, 15 to 20. In Argentina, Mexico, Nicaragua, Peru, servers are used to a little less, which 10 to 15% is the norm there. So you can see it does vary some in different countries. I tipped in Scotland and they thought I was a weirdo. Europe does not fuck with it. So in Brazil, Chile, and Costa Rica, a lot of places include a 10% sit-down charge to the bill. This I kind of get because it's like, oh, if you're taking away food, that's not included because you're not getting this service. If you're sitting here, it's just automatically, that's a part of the thing. To me, I like that being standardized. But I think it's still cool that the server, like the more they take on, the more they make. I think that's kind of a decent system. In Australia, the general consensus is very anti-tip. So is Japan. Yes. We are doing a fundraiser at school and somebody mentioned us a kickback, which feels the same. Waiter minimum wage in Canada is a crime. That one customer that puts $20 and $1 bills and takes the service as the service goes. Oh, I hate that. People that put cash on the table and then as you fuck up will take money away. That's never happened to me. I've just seen people talking about it. Okay. So tipping in Europe, the Netherlands established a requirement to include tips in their published price. However, it's still common for people to leave 5 to 10% for good service. Other EU countries which generally add a service charge to the bill are Czech Republic, France, Hungary, Spain, and Sweden. So again, a lot of times it's like you're paying to sit down. In these countries, tipping is not customary, but is considered like a nice thing to do if the person really, really goes above and beyond. Like if they're like, they fucking saved my life. They recommended my new favorite drink. They brushed my hair. It's like you can leave a tip just to be nice. It's just like, you're not expecting it. It's like a nice little add-on. Germany, Ireland, Portugal, and the UK do not have a strong tipping culture, so it's kind of up to the user. The rule is to leave 5 to 10% unless the service is really bad, and drivers and bartenders usually don't expect gratuity, but rounding up is always appreciated. So I also think, because this is from travel, people expect more tips from tourists because they know that you're tourists, and I've noticed more like local places in Europe don't really expect tips. And then in Austria, Italy, and Russia, tipping is not practiced, but it is common for people to round up because the wages are so low. And then some tourist areas, is what I was talking about, in Italy, will add a cover charge to the bill, but the gratuity isn't always shared with staff. So in Italy, it's more common to leave cash on the table to be nice. But the US is really the only place where it's like, if you don't leave 20%, go fuck yourself. I also lost my mind when someone snapped their fingers at me for some tea. Sir, this is a Cracker Barrel. Snapping your fingers at a Cracker Barrel, like, let's tone it down several notches. So if you wanted to participate in this poll, I am curious. I'll put the link in the chat, or the directions are on the screen. If you're on a computer, you can do it in a new tab, or you can do it on a phone. You don't have to download an app. You don't have to give me your email address. I'm not asking for your data. This is just if you guys wanted to do this little poll that comes up on the screen. What do you leave tips on? And I'm talking at least 10%. I'm not talking you throw the person $1 just to be nice. And you can select more than one here. Do you leave tips at sit-down restaurants, to-go food, but only sit-down places? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a Chili's is a sit-down restaurant. If you get to-go food, a server is making it. If I'm going to Panera and getting to-go food, that's like a counter service place. It's not a service restaurant. Like, that's the difference. You know what I mean? To-go food and counter service, coffee shops, retail stores, and then services like hair, lashes, tattoos, etc. So I'm curious what people say here. Lots of people saying to services. Services has always confused me because I do tip on services like nails, hair, stuff like that. But what's confused me is like I tip my lash girl, but in that industry, a lot of people are setting their own prices. So that's why it confuses me, because I'm like, wouldn't you just set it at a higher price for like what you feel it should cost? My dad got fired for informing foreigners that tipping was a thing in the US. Oh my God. When I worked at that hotel, someone asked me, it was like the day they got there, and they were from like they were like white as fuck, like Europe, like Sweden or Germany. Like they were like literally translucent. I remember because I told them they needed more sunscreen because they kept getting sunburned. And I was like, yeah, get out of here with that SPF 30. We're in the south of America. Here's SPF 100. But anyway, they got there and I was like, oh my God, your flight was so long. Welcome to the freaking party. And then they were like, can you explain how tipping works? Because our friends told us we have to do it here, but we don't like understand how it works. And so I like told them how it works. But the hotel I worked at also like put it on the bill, like at the bottom it would have the suggested amounts. I tip hair people because it's expected, not because I want to. If they set their own prices on services, I tip less. But if they're working somewhere and they're told their prices, I tip more. That's how I feel. Like when I go to the nail salon, since I'm like in my short nail era, just because I have not had time to go see my friend who does my long nails, I tip more because I'm like, they're not setting the prices. But then when I go to my lash girl, like she owns the studio. So I still tip, but not as much percentage wise. I got my nose Pierce. My sister asked if I tipped, and I didn't even think about it. I would tip now. I usually don't tip for services, but more round up to the nearest 10. I never know the right amount for services. Me either. And then, like, a lady I work with, she cut my hair for me because she also does that, but she gave me a fat discount, so I tipped her a ton because that was, like, really nice of her. So it seems like most popular answers are sit-down restaurant services. Some people are tipping at coffee shops. Very interesting. The more you freaking know. I tip on services performed by an expert or someone getting paid a tipped wage, but as a Starbucks barista, I will never tip in a coffee shop, even though I love the extra money. Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I am not tipping at Starbucks. Peace, love, and all of the things to you, but no. Coffee shops, but hashtag unionize Starbucks too. It's so difficult because the only coffee shop near my work is a Starbucks, really. Actually, there's another one, but the way they do the coffee there is weird. I don't really know what they have going on. I do for local cafes. Interesting. I also wanted to shout out someone on TikTok named Jamie tagged me in this when Maya, she made a video about this the other day. I had already posted that I was talking about this and someone tagged me in her video, so I just wanted to give her a shout out because she has really interesting content as well, and she was talking about this the other day. Oh, posture check. Sorry. So I just wanted to let you know she has a great video about right now. It's kind of just like a nice summary of what we talked about at the beginning. So if you were late and you didn't hear the like long explanation at the beginning, here's the spark notes from the lovely Maya.
Of tipping. You may not realize that tipping is a legacy of slavery, but that's why I'm here. So let's talk about it. So tipping actually originated in feudal Europe with masters and servants, but then it was brought back to the U.S. by rich American travelers who wanted to seem more sophisticated. The idea was that they would seem more wealthy because they would have extra money to give the worker after they paid their bill. So it was a flex, basically. So tipping became widely popular post-slavery, and despite being freed from slavery, African Americans were still denied wages and had to solely rely on tips. With the recent abolition of slavery, obviously mostly everyone was still racist, so workers experienced a lot of hardships during this time. They literally got to talk to them however they wanted to and look down on them and give them $1 or nothing and be like, here you go. With racism being the main factor deciding if a worker was going to get paid, this resulted in a lot of unpaid workers who didn't make any money, continuing the legacy of slavery. But there were some people who didn't agree with this. Reformers stated that tipping was exploitive and allowed companies to pay their workers low to no wages at all. Anne Morgan, the daughter of J.P. Morgan, did not believe in tipping and opened a restaurant in 1915 that had a strict no tipping policy. Now, this anti-tipping policy actually found its way back to the origins, which is Europe, and it stuck there. They don't tip in Europe, but that's not the case for America. By 1996, Congress made the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers $2.13 an hour, and it is still the same today.
So I thought she did an amazing job of kind of providing like a quick summary of all the things we talked about, and someone tagged me in it, so I wanted to share it. And also people talking about in the chat that people on here telling you to drink my water reminds them to drink their water. Love us all having our water. That was a good summary, right? It was like, I'd already made my slides and I was like, oh my God, I hadn't made all of them. I'd made most of the slides and I was like, oh my God, this is literally exactly what I'm talking about. I love when two people are like on the same wavelength. Excellent TikTok by Maya. Go follow Maya. She seems great. I gave her a follow as well. If she's watching this, thank you for your video. I don't know you, so thanks for providing good information on the internet. Okay, let me pick a game for us. Maybe the jungle or the beach. These say new, and they're just not new. They're literally just not. What game do we want to play? I think maybe sport or jungle is what I'm feeling. What are you guys feeling game-wise? She's cousin. Stop. Sports. Do we like sports? Sports. I'm seeing people say sports. I like the music on sports. All right. So, boom. Here's the code again. If you want to join the game, it's 10 multiple questions, and it's a trivia game. Your name will come up on the screen, so just put something you're okay with people seeing. You can use like a little joke or a fake name. Don't put anything offensive because that would be fucking lame. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to make an account. You don't have to put your email into anything. I would never, ever do that to you all. All you have to do if you want to join the game is go to join.ftm nearpod.com and put in the code ARFCG. That's it. You can do it in a new tab. You can do it on your phone, or the questions will come up on my screen if you just kind of want to follow along and hang out with us. You do get to pick a nice, cute little character guy that will show up on here. There's lots of different choices, so I recommend looking through and seeing what you want to use. A business will cut staff, be 86 items, to make it hard to hustle for tips but still want excellent customer service for $2.13 an hour. I used to hate when we were 86 things. I'm waiting for a TikTok to ask for a tip, and that will be my last straw. Oh my God. I was ready this time. We're ready for the game. I'll give people a couple more seconds to join. There's 73 people in there. I know some people bow out at this time, but we do still chat and hang out for like a hot minute after this. Great job. You've gone live for 90 minutes. Don't forget to take a break. Fuck off, TikTok. I'm here. I'm trying to make a living. Maybe if you had a business that you cared about, you would know what it takes to run a fucking business, but you don't. This is a business. I was late tonight and I'm so competitive, ready to lose. Can you repeat? Yes, the Nearpod. Oh, some people on TikTok are joining the Nearpod. Oh my God, never even thought I'd see the day. The code, or to get it, you go to join.nearpod.com and the code is ARFCG. Did you talk about tipping and sex workers? I did not. I did not even think about the sex worker community. I did not know that sex workers, it was viewed as a tip. That makes sense. I put my nickname. Yeah, so the nickname part, I don't know why that's even a line because it doesn't show up. I hate Nearpod that and have expressed that if they want us to tip on candles. I mean, I've expressed to Nearpod that the nickname is very misleading. They have not answered my many calls. Tipping being rooted in slavery is still a way to keep people in poverty. It is. Damn, I should ask my boyfriend to grab my iPad so I can join, even though I missed the whole thing. Honestly, you might get some stuff right. A Blockbuster parking lot. If your Twitch name is parking lot, please just sound off in the chat right now. I would love to just like take a screenshot of that for my own records. Oh my God, Epic Life. Greeting there from Buenos Aires. Welcome. Do you have Streamlab for donations? I don't even know what the fuck that means. I should do that. Stream Elements. I will get right on that. I'm going to write that in my custom planner that I created for myself so that I would be less stressed out. I'm going to be creating that. All the parking lots just continue to pop off in the chat. I want to get all of you in a row. Also, Seribot to prevent raids. Interesting. Huh. A Blockbuster parking lot. Where's the Walmart Cinnabon? I liked that one. Exactly. A Walmart parking lot child, a chicken parking lot, a Blockbuster parking lot. We love Icon. All right, let's go ahead and start the game. There's 106 people there. If you want to join and you have not joined yet, it will let you join late. Also, it does grade you on how fast you answer. So you got to be right and you got to be quick. Oh my God, a Walmart Cinnabon. Hi. Okay, I'm hitting start. The music on this one, it's just good. Let me turn it down a little bit though. What did we learn about today? Lizard Beth. Lizard Beth. I'm trying to screenshot you all before you scroll. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Music is very High School Musical. It is. We learned about tipping today. Oh, if you want to join the game, it's join.nearpod.com. The code is ARFCG. What war marked the start of tipping in the U.S.? War! War! We love war! We want war! I want to watch Real Housewives of Salt Lake City tonight. Let me tell my boyfriend. That's what we're doing. Just in case you were wondering. That's the plan, sitter. Fucked this question up. It's tough. It's hard. It is hard out here. Remembering is hard. Also, I know some people are like, I don't want to take a test at the end. The human brain likes this. You'll feel a sense of accomplishment afterwards, so you're welcome. How many people were freed from slavery at the end of the Civil War? Hard question. Might just have to change my name to your mom's house parking lot. The Hill made me competitive. So what I hate is that on Nearpod, it used to show you on the teacher screen instead of showing the question. It showed a little mountain, and it showed everyone's characters running up the mountain, and I loved it. And now it doesn't show that. It shows the question, which is so sad. And I just want to see you guys' characters run up the mountain. Why were people against tipping at first? Oh my God, Helen Francis, you're slaying. A Blockbuster parking lot. The Hill made it. The Hill makes it competitive. I wish everyone could see the Hill. I love the Hill. I want more of the Hill. I want more Hill. You know what I mean? I gave you extra time on this question. You're welcome. I gave you 45 seconds instead of 30. I missed the Hill. I am literally last. Fraz. I know y'all can see the Hill, but people that aren't Kate Bush, I'm running up that hill. I see Hill desktop. Exactly. I came halfway through. My competitive ADHD ass can't do this. Had to get Chick-fil-A instead of playing. You are a chicken parking lot. I really like that Chick-fil-A has blue Powerade. I think that's amazing. Oh, damn it. It made all the questions 45 seconds. I hate when it does that. What industry first introduced the idea of tipping in the U.S.? Leaderboard, baby. I like the lighting is a little odd. I kind of want to get a new stream camera. I feel like we could be doing better. My little camera at work is higher quality. Hate that for me. I was on there for like a second before I fell. It is a rail travel. Rail travel was the first industry to really make this a widespread thing. A Chili's walk-in. Stop. To be in a Chili's walk-in. All right. Why were people willing to work for such low wages and receive tips? Samantha B05. I'll be back when my crotch goblins go to bed. Just give them a melatonin. It's fine. Oh, to be in a Chili's walk-in. I'm so mad. I literally edited it. This is what I mean when Nearpod is in her flop era. They've been so fucking glitchy lately. They probably laid off all of their product engineers, is my fucking guess. But I changed it. I wanted only one question to be 45, and then I changed all the other ones to 30, and it said it saved, and it didn't. And it's upsetting. It's upsetting me and my homegirls. Here's your gummy. I don't have a gummy. I always lose because I have to feed Jay dinner during stream. Next week, she feeds herself. Oh my God. I forgot you're on the West Coast. I was like, bitch, it's 9 p.m. Why are you feeding her dinner at 9 p.m.? Like, that's an adult dinner time. She's a baby. Very, very protective over Fraz's infant. What events, plural, select more than one, helped to normalize tipping in the early 1900s? I fed her at 5, okay? If you can't go to Bella Noche's, where the hell could you go? Baby Fraz is pre-gaming. She is lit with teas. Oh, it was a Prohibition and the Great Depression. We are on question 8. With the timer that lasts 900 fucking years. Who mostly makes up the tipped workforce today? Baby J act to learn motor skills by next week. My God. I only got one wrong. There's still questions 9 and 10. It's never too late, bestie. Never too late to achieve your dreams. I'm winning. This is so much pressure. Ruth Flem, focus. At work, they do games like this. I'm the biggest loser, but I'm having fun. You're the biggest winner in my heart, so it's fine. All right, question 9. Most countries have a 20% tip as the social norm. I see Octopussy on the bottom. Stop. That's me, everyone. You're Octopussy? That's you? I answered wrong. Valid reason to be upset. I gave up because competition scares me, but I missed the hill. Pop off, friends. I don't want stupid, crappy prizes. Well, we don't have any prizes here. The prize is that you get to just know that you won. It's the sense of pride in your heart is the prize. Octopussy on TikTok is almost 500K. I was on the live. Oh, wow. Okay, last question. Where does serve safe money go? And I'm going to go ahead and end the TikTok live. Thank you all for being here. TTYL. I want to go on my phone. Bye. Not in the cool way, dudes. Speculating. Bye. What are you talking about? I don't know. Oh my god. You have 8 more seconds. My head is itchy. I love that for you. I never catch these live. Perks of being sick. 1 Tootsie Roll like a true teacher as a prize. You people are too smart for my lizard brain. Fraz was pre-gaming with the baby. Alrighty, in first place we have government name, then a Chili's walk-in, Lemur Banana, Biden's Balls, Madberg, Nicole, Sarah, Shayla, Mick, Clay, Kelly, Melly, Horse Girl, Beat the Cat Lady, Slutty Quirk, and then I will scroll through the rest. Tony Tips AF, oh I see Trash Sunsets, I see Nurse Redacted. Let me scroll through. Disconnected, Tyrant Lizard King, Anti-Tipper, Baby J type. We see Maggie's here, Pullman Boy, Gas Station Roller, ML Fanatic, Will Cry for Tips, Sexy and Sad, Please Tip Me, Lizard Beth. We love, we love, we love. I got 6 once. Will I ever reclaim victory? Tipless Walmart Worker, Walmart Fan Club, Cynthia Parking Lot. We got married? Thank you. Thank you. Aldi Parking Lot. We love. All right. This was great. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any memes, any horrible customer stories, anything like that, Jay made the stream. I'm a proud mom. This is the height of her career right now. Tumble Girl 384 top 10. Love to feel like we've learned something. 25 out of 100. I'll take it. We love. Go Nearpod team. Does anyone know how to make children learn how to read? I do not, unfortunately. Fraz might know, I think. How do you make someone read? I think phonics is a part of that. Servers across America, how was your meal? Customers, I hated it. Ha 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 ha. Servers. Customer acts rude, me acts rude back. That's what I've started doing at work. I work in customer service, but in like a business to business. Like the company I work for makes technology for real estate agents, so like they are a business and they're the customer, and when they're mean to me, I'm just mean back. I'm like oh my god, the add a tip. Chef rear-ending you with his car behind. I love this person on Twitter. Me showing up late to work and knowing the company hasn't had enough competent staff to fire me. Oh, a cat. When I worked at daycare, we weren't allowed to take tips, but someone's kid threw up on me 9 times and they gave me $10 valid. I once got yelled at because the DoorDasher didn't stole some of their food. Huh? Well, this was super fun. Thank you all for being here. Next week for International Women's Day, we're doing the history of Miley Cyrus, also because her album comes out on the 10th. So on March 8th, we will be here, same time, same place, same link, 7:30 p.m.-ish. We'll be talking about the history of Miley Cyrus. And then I think the week after that, I'm going to do the history of Greek life, but I'm not 100% sure. This was so fun. Thank you all for being here. I know it's sappy and late, but this is like the greatest joy of my entire life, is being able to come on the internet and people want to learn history from me. I just cannot believe that I get to live in a world where that is the case. I'm very grateful that you wanted to spend your Wednesday with me and used your time, energy. And for my subscribers, thank you to subscribing. Thank you for using your time, energy, and money on me. I love that. I'm hoping to get to a point where one day I have enough subscribers that this can be the whole vibes. I'll probably still always do some kind of work because I'm a workaholic, but you get what I'm saying. Love you so much. TTYL. Have a great night. Peace, love, and blessings. Goodbye.